Okay, welcome back, everyone.
Got everything?
Okay, I'm going to ask our attorney, Mr. Cole, to give a brief summary, and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Hey, thanks, Chair. Yeah, we were in executive session pursuant to HRS Section 92.5A4 to consult with the board's attorneys on issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, and liabilities. We just gave an update on a complaint that was filed in May, but not served. So that means it's an active litigation yet. And so we just gave updates on the complaint itself and some meetings that had happened with some of the folks that are the plaintiffs in that case or related to their business.
Thank you. We will now move to new business. The item on the agenda is discussion and decision making regarding the FY 2027. Is it 27? Yeah, supplemental CIP request. Executive Director Saito, could you please present?
Yes, this is kind of what I started on in the previous discussion, but so we are asked to put together for DBED should I unmute? Is it?
You are on mute. You are muted. You're using this microphone here.
We can hear you.
Okay, no, this thing popped up on my screen.
Oh yeah, don't unmute, please.
No, echo. So we're asked by DBED to put together a list of CIP projects, and so my coming in here first year to be asking for money and looking at and prioritizing the risk and mitigation of risk going forward on a 50-year-old asset. I'm going to read this off, and it may seem like a lot, but it is also, I guess, pent-up need to a certain degree, and other things like high risk, what I consider high risk. So the first one is the Ocean Farms pipeline removal. So Ocean Farms was here like 40-50 years ago. They had pipelines that actually would, if they came off their straps, they would float and be a kind of hazard in the ocean. So removal of the 6 pipelines from the 90s, and that would request for $10 million. Replace for non-functioning PV panels on the Gateway Center. So we remove the PV panels there and would replace them with air to water technology. So there's panels that work without electricity, just the sunlight, that can actually produce potable water. So they don't have the similar look and feel for the Gateway Center, but it would actually produce water. And this as an R&D could be used for potential ag startups like seedlings, plantings in remote areas that could actually provide moisture needed for reforestation and things along those lines. But I'm interested in actually the water production from air on that structure, and it'll also replace the very old and aged PV panels that are currently there. There's $250,000 for our road situation as we come in. You know, our road is kind of like potholes and not in top shape. There are high level of deterioration on the original chain link fences that are across the campus, and you can see that as you drive, throughout NELHA, and there's $200,000 for those repairs. The original research campus, its electrical system was put in on an, I would call it as needed basis, and had organic growth throughout the research campus, and we'd like to actually do a refresh and rebuild, repowering of the system. That's $700,000. The development of actually NELHA as a whole, become a microgrid and a resilient center for hazard mitigation, and be a resilient center of energy, water, and light for our community on an extended hazard situation. The repowering would have to be, the analysis would need to involve all the tenants, all their load profiles, and then we look at what energy, renewable energy would be needed to actually offset and perform to that load over an extended period of time. Extended meaning at least 3, 4, 5 days. If you could go 2 weeks, that'd be even better. The engineering to conduct offshore pipeline surveys every 5 years to actually inspect what we have as assets offshore. 1.5 million to address a variety of systemic pipeline distribution issues, including water quality, ability to flush and bypass dead ends, so to speak, reduce water hammering effects, and pretty much the water quality and the way the system is currently to redesign and have it, in some cases, some sections piggable. If the ice pigging works, then we may not need that, but we're looking at $1.5 million to take care of what we immediately need to correct and mitigate risk on water quality. Now, this next one is another interesting one, specifically to NELHA, is zinc anodes to protect shallow and deep water pipeline hold down hardware. So if you're familiar with seawater and ocean water, there's corrosion that gets attracted to metal by being in the ocean, and zinc anodes attract that corrosive activity, and so it's like having a magnet to draw the corrosive activity away from the metal that's actually strapping down the pipelines. And so that would it's something very easy to overlook, not pay attention to until the pipe breaks and floats up to the surface. So we'd like to, that's $1.25 million. So this is kind of a wish list, but I wanted to make the board aware of these types of needs and risks that exist, even if it's below the water and you never pay attention to it. Any questions?
Riley, what's the total? Because I was trying to write down all the different amounts, but
Looks like about 14 million.
okay.
1, 2, 3, 4,
15?
5.
Did I miss one? I might have missed one.
Oh,
10.
no, there's a.
I missed another
Four
one.
and a quarter, just after
Yeah, 15 million.
Well, it wasn't clear that they're replacing the PVs at the gateway and the microgrid repowering. I didn't catch how much each of those.
There was the PV is $300,000, and the microgrid plan analysis is $500,000. Now there's another request for NELHA that someone else blessed us with in the spreadsheet. We don't know who, but it went to DBED, and it's $12 million to for geothermal exploration and development in Hawaii.
Somebody gave you that as a gift?
See the yellow, they wrote it in the spreadsheet.
Put it in our spreadsheet.
And our spreadsheet for our submittal. And it kind of makes sense in a way that NELHA did own, 4.1 acres of land in Puna geothermal footprint. And so it's for exploration wells to study if geothermal energy production is possible. So the total request from NELHA is 27 million, counting the geothermal.
So these geothermal wells would be on this site,
No, it would be anywhere
anywhere.
on the island, possibly the world.
Okay.
No, actually in Hawaii, if you go deep enough anywhere in the world,
Right.
25,000 feet, 30,000 feet, you'll come across heat.
Right.
Okay, so oil pumped from the Gulf of Mexico leaves the earth crust at 800 degrees Fahrenheit. That's enough for geothermal energy production. So actually anywhere, we could go down 20,000 feet here and we could produce energy,
But
electricity.
that's a bit of a well
Right.
to get down that kind of.
And so these are exploratory wells to see if the presence of warming is occurring. For instance, on Hualalai Mountain on the east side, there's still sulfur banks that are humid. So if you drill there, might go down 5,000 feet, you can have warming. And so that's also in. I just wanted to mention that in case you hear different numbers.
So to be clear, and Director Miyashiro, I see your hand. So to be clear, there's $15 million that the team has identified for the on-campus, and then the overarching agency budget that is being prepared and includes NELHA. There was an additional 12 for the geothermal exploration. So NELHA's entire bucket right now in the state budgeting process that is internal, right, is
Right.
at 27 million. Okay,
Correct.
just want to make sure we have all of that
Right.
clarified. Okay, thank you, Director Miyashiro.
Thank you. With the recent wheeling legislation that passed, is there any project slated to potentially explore that, or does that change any of the economics of whatever projects we've already have on the slate?
Not necessarily, no.
Is there any potential there?
Yes, because NELHA has a footprint of 870 acres, of which is in a very high, solar irradiance area. So it's possible that an investor or someone who's building, say, something for the county, West Hawaii Civic Center's power needs, could build it at NELHA and could wield the power or have an administrative energy credit for the West Hawaii Civic Center from energy produced at NELHA.
Is it something that instead of an outside investor who'd come and monetize, would something the agency be looking at in an income generation lens to potentially offset other activities?
Potentially, yes, you could.
Would that be a CAP request?
It would need to be, yes.
I'm just asking. I think there's some potential there. I don't know if you could tell, but that was kind of where I'm trying to get at too, right?
And so having that and taking a look at, there's so much uncertainty with the energy credits on a federal level right now, because, a year ago, as a government agency, we could CIP a, say, $10 million PV system, and you could have a direct cost offset as a government agency of 30% from the feds. So you could get $3 million back as a direct cost offset. But I don't believe those are in play any longer.
I guess what I'm asking is when we go in for CIP, it's always for maintenance or, it's always, it's always it's always for infrastructure, right? But a request like I think geothermal and potentially something to further wheeling activities, it also kind of it pushes the needle forward for the state, right? And there's also it's a bigger demonstration project. And I would also urge us to look at not just asking for money to support the system, but how we play in the bigger space as well, because we do have an ideal location that could further policy objectives of the state.
I have a question on how you came up with 12 million. That's just a figure for exploration. I mean,
It wasn't our submittal.
I got it.
Like I said, we're blessed with it.
That was the clarification. It's at a deep ed level
Okay, yes,
in the NELHA bucket.
got it. In the NELHA bucket. Okay.
Got it, right? Okay.
Question for the onshore water improvement immediate needs, you have $1.5 million. That doesn't seem like a whole lot to address immediate needs for the onshore.
And that's in addition to the 1.9 that we've been spending down.
Right, but that's gone already for the most part, right? That
Oh,
1.9.
it's procured, but not installed. So depends what you mean by gone.
Yeah,
It's a bit of work.
sure, sure. But still, I'm just thinking, like knowing
Like
what
right.
things cost, 1.5 million additional doesn't seem like a whole lot of money for the size of the projects. Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, so total. Was it 3.4 million with the 1.9? But it's not the rebuilding of the entire infrastructure.
Yeah, understood.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's more focused on, I guess, the older or near where we are with the research campus and the original 50-year-old kind of patchwork that has occurred in electricity and water.
Mhm. You guys are looking at me really hard.
No, I think it'd help if maybe we sat down with you to break it down, what was in that 1.5 million. A lot of those numbers came from that 5-page list that we had presented. I think it was in October, November of last year. And some of that was covered by the 1.9 million and some of it wasn't. And so maybe we could sit down with you and give you the breakout of those.
So you can see.
Oh, I don't necessarily need a breakout. It just 1.5 million just doesn't sound like hardly any money to me for water projects. But
I think that might be helpful, Lawrence. Yes, if I may, let's.
I mean,
let's make the time to sit down and.
does that sound like enough money to you just off the top of your head?
No, I'd like to hear from Lawrence and Riley what that actually involves and the rest of the team.
So a lot of these numbers are a result of what was presented, not a result, but it's a derivative of the analysis that was presented in August and September of last year with Keith and Alex, where they're talking about infrastructure, the needs and the repair and, the high risk of failure and all of that. So that's that same spreadsheet, the 5-page spreadsheet with the risk assessment and weighting of projects prioritization, all of that is a pull through to this. Based on what was done so far and what needs to be done.
Got it.
So
But let's go there.
can we do
It's
this?
not the entirety, because remember, there were 5 priorities over 10 years. So this is the taking care of priority 1. Now we're trying to get money for priority 2.
Can we do that as tenant representatives? Are there sunshine law issues if we sit down with you, Laurence, to go through that? We do, or other board members.
It's no more than 2 board members, right? AG Cole.
Well,
Two board members is okay as long as they're, no more than 2.
Okay,
but the purpose, I believe, for discussion and decision making on this request for this budget, for this item on the agenda is for us to either approve or disapprove this submittal, the supplemental CIP request, right? So is the question about it, is the desire to defer this to the next board meeting?
I think let's trust that they have collectively thought this through well enough. I'd still like to take the time to sit and walk through it with Laurence, but I would say yes, we're okay with this. We will trust that the administration has best interests at heart and they've thought this through. So if there's an approval needed and if there's no more discussion, I'd like to move that we approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, so on the motion itself, now we're on discussion. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, then let's take a voice vote on this. All those in favor of the motion to approve the FY 2027 supplemental CIP request for NELHA, please say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. It is approved. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the financial report.
Chair, I'll just do a quick report on the financial side. And Faustine will put that on the screen so everybody can see. It's actually not a huge difference from the last meeting's report because we only have 1 additional month worth of data. So last report was July 2024 through April 2025. And because of the timing with July 15, we're not able to get the full data for the entire fiscal year. So this report is just 1 month more than the last report. So there's not really a whole lot of difference. You could go to the revenue page, please. The total revenue is about 4.8 million. And that reflects a 4.1 increase over the same period last year. Much of that is because we've had additional seawater revenue, mostly because we've had higher usage of seawater with the Captura group and Mackay Ocean Engineering, which have been using large amounts of seawater. The host park land rent, that's been pretty much flat at only 0.7% increase. We've had an increase in revenue in the research campus, about 58,000 or close to 30% over last year. And that's because we have had higher occupancy, in particular with Capture. Again, they have a large space in the campus. And that is rented on a per square foot basis versus acreage. So it's good revenue for us. Labor services, those are a little bit lower or a bit lower, 42% lower. And again, that's that same issue with the Department of Health, which had a significant contract with us, has not been sending us samples, and therefore the revenue on that end has decreased significantly. The utility reimbursements, they're pretty much stable, at least on the electrical side. Fresh water, that's increased, and that's because higher usage of fresh water. Again, this is not very different from the last report that I provided you, but I'll stop now in case there are any questions on the revenue side. If not, maybe we'll go to the expenditures. And then a quick graph. You can see the gray line is fiscal year 25. You can see we're just one month away from the end of the fiscal year in the graph. And we're in line with what we've done the previous years, except for fiscal year 21. And that green line has to do with some federal funding that we received and spent. On the expenditure side, if we could go to the other tables. Total expenses, now that's even flatter, it's at 0.05%, so very flat. So expenditures at 4.5 million for this fiscal year that we just ended. Again, there's 1 month missing, so but it'll be pretty much the same. Seawater expenditures, they usually aren't parallel to the revenues, so higher revenues usually translates to higher expenditures, and so no different there. Our electrical usage has increased. Again, that's in line with the seawater expenditures. We've done a little bit more environmental monitoring, the way environmental monitoring expenses, and that's primarily because of services that we've engaged to deal with seawater quality. On the other hand, other areas like ground maintenance have decreased. Beach park maintenance, that's still pretty high compared to last year. There's still a lot of usage on the beach park, and our crew spends a lot of time down there. And also a lot of time, I think, on Kahili Road. The Matt's for convenience store has had the, I guess, the side impact that we have a lot of usage up on that road, and people tend to throw their garbage, unfortunately. So we have to deal with that. Administrative expenses, they've increased by 11.3%. That's in part due to salary increases compared to the previous year, and also hazard pay that has been paid out. One thing that's not reflected on here is, I believe, the UPW, so the operations crew hazard pay. That did get paid out, but it's going to be paid out in July, so this fiscal year. So that's not going to reflect on this previous fiscal year budget.
And just to clarify, the hazard pay is from the COVID negotiations, right? Okay.
Correct. So UPW folks had their bargaining unit. It was addressed separately from all the other bargaining units, so that's why it's kind of done in two tranches. Yeah. I guess next we can go to the diagram. Again, you can see we're in line with the previous years, maybe spending a little bit more, but you know, basically the same. And on our special fund balance, we're at 785,000. Now, one thing you need to know is that includes that 250,000 that we just spent and completed, and maybe, I don't know if Riley will talk about that, but removal of the Ka'u pipeline components offshore. This is that expenditure that the board approved maybe 4 months ago, something like that. Maybe a little longer, that has been completed, and that is reflected in here. So our special fund balance is at 785,000 approximately. A little bit higher than we were last month. So that's a good news. And finally, the arrears. So these are the arrears by the end of May. And we're still pretty high at 84,000. The highest ones Ocean Era. I believe there's a payment plan there. And I can let Director Sims talk to that if he wishes to. And Symbrosia, the previous meeting, we had meant to bring Symbrosia as a line item, and we plan to bring them at the next possible board meeting. And
Right.
we'll get into that a little bit later. But we have resolved the issue that prevented us from bringing this up at the last meeting. So just to let you know, that's a large amount, 18,000, and it has increased since, but we have a plan to reduce that to 0. And should be able to do so by the next
And with
year.
Ocean Era, we did receive a payment, so that also will drop.
Since May. Yeah, so again, this is since May. Yeah, so any questions on any of this information?
I would just like, we do have a plan to eliminate these arrears for Ocean Era by October, and we do appreciate greatly your patience.
Well, you're sticking to the plan and that's what's very important.
Thank you. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay, on the agenda, you have this as a decision, as a approval. Is a motion required here?
We usually, usually that gets
Okay.
approved each time we
Okay.
present it.
Is there anything else that you wanted to present before we entertain a motion?
No, that is it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the financial report as presented?
I'll move to accept the financial report.
Thank you. Could we please get a second?
I'll
Second.
Thank you, Director Bruce. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, is there any objection to the motion passing? Okay, hearing none, the motion is hereby passed. The next issue on the agenda is the Executive Director's Informational Status Report. So Riley?
Okay, I'd like to start with the the legislative session of 2025. Coming out of that, Act 189 is related to our Ota well activity, in which NELHA is a partner with the housing to build an Ota well. It's one of two wells that are up for approval that have met all the requirements to be approved by CWER. And the legislative and administrative team has provided funding under the DLNR to construct two monitoring wells, along with $200,000 a year for the expense of monitoring the wells. There is no short story, but the short story is that there's an adaptive management plan to move forward that was approved today by the Seaworm Commission, and it's with the Keoho aquifers. So within Kona, there has been a long-standing concern over 10 years, a concern of the sources and uses of fresh water, of potable water. And there are a lot of unanswered questions that need to be researched, and data needs to be gathered to really understand the underground sources of water, which may be a source on land and it may be a source under the ocean. But there are various sources of water and a question of what and how we use it, and then how that impacts our environment. There's definitely impacts at the Honokohau Historical Park with the plant and animal life that existed for hundreds of years. And so we're seeing that type of changes occur, but the causes and of those changes are similar to our internal seawater quality concerns, but this involves the entire Keoho aquifer. So there are two monitoring wells that are funded to be built, and this is the initial step forward with the adaptive management plan to then have carefully mitigated kind of impacts on our environment of having additional wells put in, and to really optimize minimize the impact on our environment. And so that funding was passed in Act 189. There's I went through the CIP portion of the fiscal year 27. We plan the next board meeting in September to present the budget for this year. for FY 26. On the campus leases, we heard, there's a optimization of Blue Ocean Mariculture on their spaces. Other folks have adjusted their leases because of the new fiscal year, and so basically we have 5 open spaces in this building, Hale Yako, and that are up for that we have on the market for leases. As far as another tenant, HNEI, they're looking at turning over their assets of the hydrogen production station along with the associated equipment to NELHA for NELHA to carry forward in its clean energy initiatives related to zero emission vehicle along with potential energy production in the form of hydrogen. The current system, the hydrogen production system does work, and it can produce hydrogen for use as an energy source for mobility. There is out on the main public that COA, our Big Island Abalone entity, is shutting down, and there are proposals from new buyers that have provided draft documents that has not been executed, so I can't go into details. But there is an entity interested in taking over and having that move forward as an ongoing concern. So we'd like to ask the board, Posting can do a poll of having a special board meeting near the 3rd week of August. And at that meeting, we would propose and present the transfer of ownership from Big Island Abalone to the new owner. We did receive draft documents, but it's too late to actually bring to the board. Let's see. In regional seawater air conditioning, there are tentative plans or discussions far in the future pretty much, but interested in having NELHA provide deep sea water air conditioning to develop to our neighbors on the north and south. There's the airport and the Honda group that is currently creating their access to the highway right now. I don't know if you realize that it's about quarter mile, half mile from Kohana Yuki. That will actually be a Honda dealer.
That's what that is.
Oh,
That is totally off grid.
oh,
Huh.
Their plans to be totally renewable energy within this space. And so part of that interest, they're thinking about seawater air conditioning. With kind of related to the fresh water situation. And we're looking at utilizing Koyo, I'll name the entity. They're producing, they have the capacity to produce a lot more fresh water through their RO systems. So we're looking at using grant funding that's available through the county. Thank you. Through the county to repower the renewable energy systems of PV and battery at their system, at their location, to actually produce fresh water, possibly potable water, and also have that water available for hydrogen and energy for the hydrogen production for zero emission vehicles as a county base yard and hub for their mass transit systems. So we're looking at it's in preliminary type discussions, all the parties in agreement that it would be a win-win of renewable energy providing energy molecules for mobility along with fresh water to offset NELHA's consumption of fresh water on our campus.
So tenants could use that water? What was there potentially?
Um. It. Yes, and our target. How we're looking at it having. To be cost parity. At minimum, cost parity with DWS. Yeah, and so. It being. Generated, produced, stored, distributed within NELHA, from the energy source in NELHA. Reduces the cost of. Having fresh water. And so we're taking that. Forward, because just Friday we confirmed that, the funding from. The county mass transit earmark grant. Is available.
And are they able to produce on a volume that will make the spaces on Kahili Road kind of viable to operate businesses on?
That would still need to be worked on and negotiated with DWS. Because it is a little different in that, will now consistently be under our allocation.
So maybe.
Yeah,
Is the answer.
yeah,
It's non-potable water, so it's not the exact same thing as. what
Yeah,
EWS
okay.
is.
right.
I see.
But as far as our DWS 400,000 gallons per day, we would be below that.
Yeah.
We'd land about 175,000 gallons, gallons per day. Or not gallons, 175,000 gallons per day. It's a projection, and then this, if we are able to infuse more renewable energy, there could be more production of water. But it could go the other way, so less energy, less water.
Yeah.
That's why you need geothermal, right?
Drill.
Yeah, drill.
And so, but it's pretty exciting that we're able to take this, actually move it forward to see where it takes us.
But the water could definitely be used for, let's say, ag projects.
Yeah,
100%.
totally, yeah,
And does that address some of Cyanotech's need for fresh water?
yes.
Fully or just partially?
Possibly.
And how much of that, do we have an idea of what percentage of their need that will be?
It could go 100%. And we're still looking at different tweaks of like, within the RO system, the type of filters. And to what level of purity. And to what degree do you want to be committed to renewable energy being the only source of energy? Because then that limits the time of the renewal of the RO system. But it is possible to run the RO system in the solar peak with a battery backup that sustains the energy needed for the RO system to consistently operate for 6 hours. That would meet Cyanotech's daily need. That could expand. And get larger.
A question around the HNEI gifting of the bus system here. There's a county grant to cover those costs, and how long will that county grant cover those costs for?
So the county grant is related to zero emission mass transit. there's several grants. There's a Shots Earmark grant for 9.5 million. There's a low emission, no emission grant, which we still need to figure out exactly what piece. There's a piece in there for workforce development, education, and training that's required of $15 million. 5% must go toward workforce development certification training. This equipment here with HNEI would serve as the education piece, where you can have first responders, mechanics, so to speak, but more like technicians, actually be able to take things apart, put them together, and pretty much be in hands-on lab of renewable energy, hydrogen-based. And so eventually this equipment would go away or become part of the base yard activity of training and certification. So combined, and there's another grant that's in the work with Senator Schott's team for an additional $10.5 million toward this. So with the county, I'm pointing to Benson, with the county, we have agreement that we will move forward with working together as a partnership with NELHA as a site with COIL at this point. It may not be COIL, but it's still COIL at this point, and their ownership is very excited about doing this. And we have talked to Cyanotech, and they're interested. Of course, we're offering them stabilized water costs for the next 20-25 years. That is based on electricity price being 5 to 4 cents. So the RO hurdle of power requirements being expensive has just been scaled with the PV and renewable energy. The cost of the system, which is, when we're just at the start, being renewable energy grant funded, makes it all work economically. So it's a unique opportunity in time. But that's all I have. Wow.
That's a lot. Thank you for all the good work and the thought, and the way things are compiled and put together, especially the PV, air to water, hydrogen, opportunity that looks very interesting in supporting the goals, and staying within the mission of NELHA. So, being able to support aquaculture and still expand in the energy space, both for electricity and transportation, is, I think, a super big deal. So kudos to the team on that. Are there any other comments on the executive director's informational status report? Okay, then, unless I'm mistaken, that's all I'm seeing on the agenda, right? Okay. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on Tuesday, September 14th, 2025 at 1 p.m. And the meeting is hereby adjourned at 2:42 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.